Paxvil Consulting presents the As Told by podcast. Enjoy. Good morning, noon, and night. How you guys doing? My name is Ryan, and I am hosting. Right? Like it's been such a long time since I've done a podcast, and it's been my stuff. Right? Like the first podcast I ever was a part of was back in 2017, I believe. That's my dogs. I'm not editing that out. And my wife is home. Yay, right? So 2017, right, Dallen?
Yeah, that is right.
2017, we did the Weird Kids podcast where we talked all things music and life and I was the better looking guy on there. It's changed since then, right? It's changed since then, but when we first did it, I was the better looking one. But I'm back. I'm doing something else, and I would be remiss if I didn't have my first guest being my good friend Dallen Graff. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. I mean, it's great to be here. It's crazy to think that, 6-7 years ago, we kind of dipped into the podcast realm and here we are. I mean, that's just like crazy to think about. I mean, frankly, we knew nothing about podcasting. I just liked
Absolutely
the idea of
nothing.
I mean, we would call each other, when a new album dropped, and it'd be like, all right, give me your thoughts on this Drake album or on Kanye or whatever it was. And so I loved that it evolved into like, well, let's just record that and make it, an official little thing. So those were good times. We talked about some interesting albums at that time.
Super interesting albums. My favorite episode. I went back and I listened to the episodes because I'm kind of vain in that sense. Like I'll listen to myself over and over again. And what I loved was that we did not just stop at albums. We talked about movies. We talked about politics. We talked about sports betting a little bit. So it was a bunch of different stuff. We had a couple of guests on there.
Yeah.
So it was like, I think podcasting wasn't as big as it is now. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. Dallen has his own podcast doing super well, the Sports Hour guys with our good friend Mitch. And then I was producing podcasts for a company and for other people, which I don't know if I want to get into that just yet on this show, but we are definitely going to get into that at some point. So let me backtrack a little bit and say what the name of this show is. It's called As Told By, and what I want to do with this show is I want to hear stories of people who I've had the pleasure of experiencing them do something different with their life and with their time, right? So Dallen, I always tell the story of how we met, but I kind of want you to tell that story from your perspective, and then I'll get into the various questions and stuff I have for you.
I love that. So yeah, this is 2010, 2011. I don't know exactly when Ryan moved to my high school. This is in Lacey, Washington, and I was we were in choir, and I noticed Ryan come in, and I don't remember if it was like the end of that little semester before Christmas or after Christmas, but I feel like it was somewhere around that time. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to start my rap career. If you're looking at this or hearing this, you're like, this guy, he tried really hard. But I was trying to start my rap career, and I needed somebody that had beats and that could record songs. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have a mic. I didn't have a way to make beats. And I heard from a friend in choir that this Ryan kid that had just moved in and he joined choir, that he was a rapper, that he had beats, that he had a mic, he could record music. So I was like, all right, I gotta hit this guy up, see where this goes. So I talked to Ryan. I tell him I'm a rapper. I don't know what you thought of me at that time when you saw this white kid come up to you, tell you that. You're probably like, who the hell is this? But we set up. You were down. You were cool, which appreciate it. could have just rejected me, but you were cool. You were like, yeah, that works. And so we set up a day, and day of, Ryan texts me his address, and he's like, come over, and we'll do this. And I look at the address, and it was right across the street. Like, not exactly across, like one house down across the street. I mean, literally like right next to each other. So I just like walk over, knock on the door, and I'm like, bro, we're neighbors. Like, that is wild. And yeah, ever since then, we recorded music. We started working together. We became friends. And I mean, you introduced me to my wife. I mean, it's
Oh
like
yeah, I forgot about
we
that.
go way deep now. It's kind of crazy how that all started. So, was that as accurate as you remember it? I feel
No,
like that was a pretty good
absolutely.
summary.
That is the best summary that I would have given. Like my favorite part about that story is like, and I need you guys to understand exactly how this went down as far as him telling me that we were neighbors. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm black. Um, and my mom is from the East Coast, right? Like I have cousins, and I can't divulge their business because people might be watching, right? But they are not the most law-abiding citizens, and so um, I was raised, lock all doors and don't just show up at people's houses, right? Like, like sure, I was expecting Dallen, but the streets in Lacey are not that big. So when you text somebody, "Hey, this is my address," and then 2 minutes later they're at your house knocking on the door, you're like, "Yo, this is crazy." So that it was definitely a wild ride. But yeah, ever since then we've been pretty good friends. Stood in this guy's wedding. I introduced him to his wife, and then uh, up this guy, as far as people I'd take a bullet from, he's up there on that list. I'd say about maybe top 10. I can't say which
Hey,
number it is
I'll
because
take it.
some people might get mad, but it's top 10 for sure. Um, so why am I bringing Dallin on here? As told by, I am starting a new venture where I am consulting with different brands on their success, how they've built their brand, or how to build their brand, their story, and all that good stuff. It's been for about a year and a half now. I was working with a gentleman on building his brand for his consulting company, as well as for his sales organizations. I worked closely with this guy for a year and a half, been working with him for about 4 years, and we always wanted to help them build their brands by who they are. Like, I believe that you should not have to curate your identity online. And so I wanted to teach people that, right? Like, I'm very active in my church, and our church has a horrible online presence, horrible. And because I'm active in my church, and that's something that I'm very passionate about. I started looking at other churches and like, hey, this is just an issue across the board. So I wanted to bring on people who I've seen build a brand, who I've seen success from that. Because one thing that Dallin mentioned is he did music for, I want to say, about 5 or 6 years before he got married, and married life is different than single life. So he was doing music and he was performing. He had a nice fan base out in Idaho, which is not a hip hop centric state at all. Um, and at the time, he was like he was like super Mormon is the best way I can put it. He was, and so the music, he navigated his way through an industry that doesn't necessarily fit with that, but he carved his own lane with his production, with his music, and I kind of wanted to talk about that. How did you come up with the idea to start rapping first, and then the name Dope? I don't think we mentioned that, but his rap
Yes.
name was DOPE, and it evolved over over the time, but like let's hear that story.
Yeah. I didn't grow up listening to rap music, hip hop, anything like that. Like my dad was a classic rock guy. So, Styx, Journey, Aerosmith, like the Eagles, like that's kind of the stuff that I grew up with. Uh,
Quality music.
Great music. And I still love that music. And it was like middle school, listening to the radio where you started kind of like hearing, other music. And I remember hearing rap songs like a lot of Kanye, Gold Digger, and then the Graduation album. And uh, I started just wanting to listen to more hip hop. I vividly remember sitting, I think it was a sophomore in high school, sitting in my room listening to 808s and Heartbreaks
Mm.
and Akon. I don't know why those two, but that was the combination. And just kind of slowly started introducing more and more into hip hop. Kid Cudi was a really big influence for me at that time, and still now he's like my favorite artist. But uh, hearing a more what felt like a more authentic uh, form of music, I guess, through rap. Artists that weren't just, it wasn't bling era rap, it wasn't like gangster rap, it was like like here's how I'm feeling, emotions rap.
Yep.
Struggling with identity, where you fit in the world. And I think at that time at 16, 17, that was a lot of those sentiments resonated with me as I was trying to find my place in the world and where I fit in. And I think it just kind of naturally evolved into like, hey, I think like I kind of want to do this. I was very much into uh the jerking scene. So if you're like young, you don't know what that is maybe, but that was big in like 09, 010. The dance originated in LA. The New Boys, you had Audio Push, the
Yeah.
Rangers. And I was like super in. Me and a bunch of white kids started a jerking crew, a rap crew slash dance crew called the Old Kids. We performed at like a New Year's dance for my church. That was the first time I ever rapped in front of people. And that, fizzled out. But as that fizzled out, I realized like, hey, I like writing songs. I like doing this. Like maybe I should continue to do this on my own. So started writing my own stuff. I had a friend, and man, I wish I could give her credit because I don't remember who exactly it was that helped me come up with the name. But I was on a school bus on the way to some choir concert practice, and was I liked the name DOPE. I didn't have an acronym for it yet, but I liked the word dope. I thought it was dope. I thought it was a good play on words. I could like put it into songs, like the song you're hearing is dope because that's me. Like it was, it's like I liked that, but I had no idea what the acronym should be or if it even should be an acronym. Uh, and I had a friend who said to me on that bus, "You should you should have dope, but have it doing the opposite of people's expectations because you're white and you're Mormon and you're like the last person anyone would expect to be a rapper." So it seemed pretty fitting, and I think it fit very well. It's a little clunky, in hindsight. We could have workshopped it. We could have massaged it a little more, but I think it was pretty fitting because that was kind of, I guess, my perspective and my, I guess, character persona as
Yeah.
I tried to create a rap career for myself. Was I'm doing the opposite of what people expect me to do. People don't expect me to write rap music. People don't expect me to produce beats and do this kind of thing. But here I was doing it because I loved it, and it was great. I absolutely loved making music. I still miss it. I still hear. I think the biggest thing is beats. I loved making beats. I loved
Hmm.
producing beats. And I still to this day will hear songs and think about how I would sample it and like, oh, I would do this and I could take, and then we'd make this. Like I still like just listen to stuff and think about that. Even though I don't make it anymore, it's still that passion, I guess. Maybe one day we'll dabble back in it. But yeah, doing the opposite of people's expectations, it became more than just the name for me. It was kind of the driving force to what I did as far as when it came to music.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember the The first name that you had was Dat Original People Entertainer. That
That's
was
awful. That's awful. Hence why I needed help.
I thought that was fire. What are you talking about? That was the best name anybody could have ever thought to have in rap. Uh, no, but I like that. I like that. You took one. You're open to suggestion, right? A lot of people, when they are trying to build out who they think that they are, they don't they don't allow other people to tell them, hey, maybe you should look at it this way, or you should do that, or allow someone to tell them, look, this is who you are. Like, I see you doing this, and this is the place that you can niche out, right? um I love that your main influences were Kanye, Cudi, and this introspective rap, because it was a big time in what 2007 2008, when you had the Get Rich or Die Trying versus Graduation. I want to say it was those two albums. It might have
Mm-hmm.
not been, but
I think it was Curtis. Not, I think it was
Curtis.
Curtis, the 50 Cent album. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was the 50 Cent versus Kanye, and it kind of shaped is what direction is rap going to go into? Is it going to go into this introspective space, or is it going to go into this gangster rap space? Because before Kanye, it was, you were jerseys, fitteds, baggy clothes. You talked about this lifestyle. You talked about the things you can get, and hip hop changes, and it goes through phases and everything. But like, to see and to hear that your influence came from that introspective side, and then you went into this jerking music side, which is if you don't know what jerking is, look it up, please, because this is going to be a really odd podcast if just a bunch of dudes talking about jerking. Like, really? Anyway, um to go to a jerking group, a dance crew, and then go back into this introspective, like, who am I kind of music, was interesting to see, because I was there for your first couple of full length projects. I produced the first one. It sounded horrible. I apologize for that. We know better now. And then you produced the second one with just phenomenal project. It was kind of your reintroduction to the world, and I absolutely love that. Now, when you look at your building of I heard it, yo, I apologize. When you look at your building of your brand in that space, what what was the main factor that you wanted to accomplish? Like, did you have an idea of, I want to accomplish this with DOPE? I want to accomplish um, outside of being famous and making a lot of money, what was your like driving force, and why did doing the opposite of people expectations last as long as it did?
Yeah, I think, one, I just loved doing it. I loved performing. I loved writing music, making music. And I would have done it if 0 people listened. I mean, and there were times where close to 0 people listened, right? But it didn't matter to me as much. I think a big part of it though was connecting with people. I think I felt that, you know, artists like Kid Cudi, who I connected with so much, that really felt like at times he was like writing songs to me,
Mm-hmm.
specifically telling me what I needed to hear, giving me a perspective that felt familiar. I think that motivated me a lot to create music that people could connect to. And in the hip hop realm, where, you know, not Mormon music, but like, I guess Christian. I wouldn't say I was a Christian rapper. I certainly didn't hide my faith and beliefs at that time in my, outside of my music. It was a big part of my music and what I wrote about. And so I think it was just about connecting with people and helping them sort of find music that that resonated with them, in the realm that they're, in hip hop, where there's so much music, so many different perspectives, different genres.
Yeah.
Not that I had the most important voice to in the room, or the most important perspective to be heard, but I knew that there was people that would appreciate, the kind of music I was trying to make, and making that connection with people, helping people through music, connecting with that, and collaborating with other people. We worked a lot together, and you are still by far my favorite collaborator. I had never connected with anyone on the music side more than you. I felt like you pushed me in ways I didn't know I needed. But you also fit into what I was trying to do. Like, we fit really well together. And I loved collaborating with other artists, producers, across the board, working in sort of different mediums and trying different things, because that's how you grow, right? You talked about, the idea of being open to other people's opinions when building your brand. Like, collaboration is a huge part of that, and knowing like who to collaborate with and who works well with you, who can push you in the direction you want to go and give you something that you don't already have. Like, I think that's super important. So I found that to be a huge motivating factor as well.
Nice. Now, question that popped into my head. You mentioned you weren't a Christian or Mormon rapper, right? Like, I know we had a colleague. I forget what his name was. I know he went on a mission in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Messiah,
Mosiah. Yep.
Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Now he made it a point to have his identity be the Mormon rapper. And like there's this huge debate, or it was a huge debate. I don't know if it still is. I haven't really been paying attention, but in the Christian hip hop space, where it's like, if you don't attach your, I personally, I rap still. I still make music. Dallen doesn't know this, but he does know that we did a song together recently. He doesn't know that it's going to get released this year. So he
Let's
didn't know
go.
that. So we're going to be hearing some new DOPE music coming up soon. I probably won't say it's DOPE because I feel like that needs to be retired. No offense to it, but I think at this point it needs to be
Yeah.
retired. But do you think it's important to, like, when building out a brand? I know how I stand on it, right? I'm gonna say my answer after I ask the question. You give your answer. But do you think it's important to put your faith, or these um your creeds in the forefront of what you're creating your brand to be, right? Like, do you need to say I'm a Mormon rapper, or I'm a Catholic rapper, or I'm a I'm a Buddhist painter, or whatever the case might be?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important for you to put that there?
uh, you know i I don't think so. I think like that message comes across in the content that you make. Like, I don't think you should hide who you are. I mean, people want authenticity, right? Especially in the digital world that we live in, everything feels so fake and fabricated and curated for us, that I think as humans we resonate with authenticity, with people being real with themselves and with you, the audience. I don't think it's I don't think it's necessary per se to put all of that in the forefront to make that identity super clear, but you shouldn't hide that in the content that you create, right? And
Right.
like I think that was true for me when it came to being Mormon. It was also a very big part of me being a white rapper. And I talked a
Mhm.
lot about that. Like, it's kind of funny to listen back to my music and I'm like, man, I talked about being white a lot. But it did feel like in that space, like I very much felt like I was entering another space in rap and hip hop. Like, it wasn't mine. It wasn't something that I owned, or it was something like I was like an invited guest too. So like I definitely felt like it was important for me to share my perspectives on that, but not to just fully identify as the white Mormon rapper. Like, I did talk about it, and it's not like it's
Yeah.
something I hid per se, but again, I think people just want authenticity. So whatever you're doing, coming across with that true authentic self, letting people know who you are, and that may involve being forefront with I am this, I am that, however you identify with your beliefs. But I don't know if it's I don't know if it's necessary.
Yeah, that's kind of how I lean. Because I think it's kind of cheesy to. I think it's kind of cheesy when you have to tell people, "Oh, I am this," and
Hmm.
it kind of for me kills the message that you're trying to give, right? Like if you're trying to connect with people, which anytime you're building out your brand, your whole job is to make sure that you connect with the people that want to connect with you, right? Like um people have this false sense of what marketing is there for. Like I truly believe that marketing is there so that the people who are looking for you can find you easier, not necessarily um the popularity contest of I need to be in your face all the time. Like you're presenting the option, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of times when we focus so heavily on a creed or something of that nature when we're trying to build our brand, it's this it depends on what you're doing, right? Like if you are a church, yes, let them know that you are a church.
Right.
If you are a Buddhist temple, let them know you're a Buddhist temple. um but on the personal branding side of that, I believe that, like you said, your actions should speak for themselves. Like if I hear a song and if I listen to an artist, right, at some point I need to know what this artist believes, right?
Hmm.
Like at some point they're going to, for lack of better terms, slip up and share their personal feelings on things. And that's what we want. Like that's what most people want whenever they're looking at someone to follow, someone who they're going to spend money on, someone who they're going to support. Like they want to know, like you said, the authentic side of themselves. But words don't mean anything. Like I could say all day long I'm a Christian rapper and I can have Satanist rhetoric throughout all of my verses. Like love him, but look at Kanye, right? Like
Right.
Kanye was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be a Christian rapper," and he still considers himself a Christian rapper. And if you've heard any of Donda 2 or Vultures, I wouldn't play any of that in the church.
Right.
So it's like and I'm not here to question his walk or anything because that's I'm not doing that. But like I think being the authentic side of it and not necessarily telling people but showing people is the super important side of it all. Um,
Yeah.
so
People will get the message, right? Like you don't
mhm,
need to present it on a billboard for people to understand who you are if you are just being who you are, And like I think of, I was thinking of Tyler the Creator when you were talking, who, as far as his sexuality goes, right? Like he could uh, label himself as the gay rapper or the bisexual rapper, however he identifies on there, but he doesn't, right? But if you listen to his music and what he writes and what he does, like it becomes evident that on the sexuality spectrum, he's not just hetero, right? But he
mhm,
doesn't come out like if he came out and was like, yeah, I'm the gay rapper. I'm this, it cheapens all of that. It sort of dilutes that message and what he's actually saying. And so just being Tyler the Creator and putting the content there and putting the message in the music and letting people find it and discover it, interpret it, whatever he wants, it becomes a better experience and a more authentic experience. And so that's where I do think I agree with you that it does sort of cheapen the message if you're so upfront about it, and then it feels fake, it feels inauthentic to people. It feels like, well, they're just telling me this because they want me to see them as this, as opposed to just
right,
seeing them for who they are.
right, and that's really big when it comes down to marketing and branding. Like, especially if you're trying to leverage that into um, financial gain, I guess is the best way I can put it right now. Now going back to Dallin building up his brand, one of my first like shows outside of school and church was with you in Seattle, right? How did you take this, suburban white kid from Mormontown, uh, USA, and go into this rap show where you were the second most person to sell tickets, to where we ended up not going on until what, 11 or midnight?
Yeah.
Like, how did you do that? And then also with going into your college in Idaho, which again, it's not a hip hop centric area. Like, from what I've seen, every time you step into an area that's not hip hop centric, you somehow were able to find all the people who love hip hop and get them around you. How did you leverage that? How did you do that?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think it's just I think part of it comes back to authenticity. Like, as cringy as I may have been sometimes, and trust me, folks, like, if you haven't listened, like, it
We're
got pretty
putting a link
cringy
in the show
sometimes.
notes at
It
this point.
it's like, but it was authentic. Like, I was being me, and I think that was part of why it resonated with people, and I sought opportunities, right? Like, I didn't sit back and just hope things happen. Like, I reached out to promoters, like, I reached out to recording studios, like, I did any performance that anyone would let me. If there was a mic in a show and they let me show up, I would do it and I would perform, because I knew that's how you reach people and how you grow. You can't be stagnant. You have to be putting in an effort and doing your part to build those things. So, like, that show in Seattle, like, I had reached out to a promoter and I had a decent enough, I guess, online following that he was willing to give me a shot, to go up to Showbox Soto and perform at this rap show. And, like, yeah, I was very out of place there, but but it was great. I mean, when I first got to Rexburg, Idaho, my first day of college, I was in this little freshman orientation, and they're like, "Hey, we do this talent show at the tomorrow, for all of the freshmen. If you have a talent and want to audition, you can." And so I took a brand new song that I'd never performed. I'd written like 2 weeks before that and recorded, and I auditioned with that song and performed it at that assembly. And I had people the rest of the time up there mention that to me, like, "Oh, I saw you at that assembly." And then, that helped me get shows at different venues in that town and kind of build that up. But it was just opportunity, right?
Hmm.
I saw opportunity, I took it, and I wasn't afraid to fail, I guess, in that sense. Like, if I didn't get the show, it is what it is. I'll go find the next one.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. So I think people connect with you when you're authentic, and I think that was a part of it. But also just that willingness to put myself out there and not be afraid to be rejected, not be afraid to fail, I guess, because the only way
Hmm.
that you grow and the only way that you can get opportunities by seeking them out and putting yourself out there and putting it to God or the universe or chance or whatever you believe in. But, like, you have to do those things in order to find any measure of success.
Love that. I love that because that's true. You do have to put yourself out there. Um, One thing that I've been doing recently, because I just started my company, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's my company. I got to get all the legal paperwork, but yeah, that's a formality. But cold outreach, man. I've been on LinkedIn, just connecting with people on LinkedIn, shooting them a message, be like, hey, thanks for connecting with me. Reach out anytime you want to do something, and then I'll send a follow up message. Hey, here's my scheduling link. Let's connect, like, right now. Like, I want to give you value right now. As soon as you see this, you can schedule a time with me, and we can spend an hour talking about whatever we want to talk about. Like, that's really big for me. I think cold outreach is one of the things that people don't access anymore. They think it's difficult or whatever the case might be, but it's one of those things that's going to help you go to the places that you want to get to. um yeah, I personally, as far as the music goes, I never did cold outreach for that kind of stuff. I never was trying to push myself to perform on a stage, mainly because I did not want, I don't know, this is it's the weirdest thing for me as a rapper to say, but I did not want to be performing on large stages.
Hmm.
I didn't want to do it. I wanted the people who resonated with my music, and I still do, the people who resonate with my music, I want them to be able to find it and like it be this little hideaway type deal for them, to where it's like, oh, nobody knows about this guy. And I've always like dreamed of, if I ever got asked to do a show, it'd be, I didn't even know that I had that kind of impact on somebody, to where they sought me out. Like a lot of people who I work with now, it's people who randomly found my music because, I'll post it on a blog, because I loved the blog space in music.
That you
Like that
did.
time, it was great. I loved it. We don't do it so much anymore, because I guess people forgot about blogs, but like there was Pigeons and Kites. You remember
Yeah.
that blog?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the music that came during the blog era of the internet, man. But yeah, that's kind of how I wanted my music career to kind of stack up, is like the hole in the wall restaurant type feel.
Yeah.
Um, God, I went on a tangent. But yes, cold outreach. Cold outreach is the way to go. Like, put yourself out there, make sure that people um have the opportunity to see you, right?
Yeah.
If you don't give them that opportunity, then you building your brand is for nothing.
Yeah.
Is how I see it.
Well,
So
and
go
knowing
ahead.
your audience too. Like, I mean, I think that's
Yes.
what you were speaking to, right? You knew what audience you were trying to reach and how you would find that audience. And so for me, I knew how I would find my audience. I knew I had to get in front of people and entertain them for them to accept me and my
Mm.
music, right? Nobody would, if they saw the picture of me, they would not click the song, right? They wouldn't. And it was just, they wouldn't. But if
Ooh.
I could get up there
Yeah.
and I could perform in front of them and I could entertain and show my talent and that I could really do this thing, that there would be a level of respect and interest that would come from that, right? And so I think that just comes down to, yeah, knowing your audience, knowing who you're looking for and how to reach them, like you were talking about with marketing. You're not just trying to reach everybody all at once and be the most popular thing out there. You're trying to reach the people who would be interested where they are, right?
Yeah,
at,
you want
at
the
their
raving
level.
fans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so what just a couple of things that popped into my head. I want to do this one first, because it's more of a statement than a question. Um, your image is everything. I need people to understand that, right? Like what he said, like the people are going to look at his picture and be like, nah, that's not a rapper. It's true, right?
Yeah.
Like people are going to judge a book by its cover. Somehow, some way, Macklemore has made it as far as he did, winning a Grammy in the hip hop space. But if you look at Macklemore had a hard time because he just doesn't look like a rapper. Versus like you look at Eminem, he looked like a rapper. It might be a different kind of rapper, but still it was a rapper that you would expect to be rapping. Your image is super
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
important. People are going to judge a book by its cover. As much as we want to pretend like we don't, like
Yep.
we have this saying, "Oh, don't judge a book by its cover." That's a lie. Everybody's going to judge a book by its cover. Your branding, your imaging, all of that needs to be on point, and it needs to be like Dallen said, authentic. Otherwise, you're not going to resonate with people who you need to resonate with. So now here's the question: how much do you think that the beef with Sterling helped your your branding efforts? Did and because this is kind of hip hop centric, do you think that beef and this need to prove I am who I am. Do you think that is required in solidifying a brand, or is that just kind of like a one-off type deal?
I do think uh I love that you brought that up. That is still one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me. Getting in a rap beef with like a 16-year-old after I graduated high school, by the way. Like this is post high school for me. But I do think that I felt like it legitimized me in some ways. And beef and rap battles, that's like a part of hip hop culture. And again, as an outsider in a lot of ways to hip hop culture, that felt like, something that either happens or it doesn't, In this case, it did happen. I had a diss track written against me and had the opportunity to respond and did so. And I did feel like in some ways to some of my peers, the people that followed that and listened to it, I do think it did probably legitimize like, oh, Dallen can actually rap. Like here he is, kind of laying into this kid who came at him. And I don't know if yeah, I mean, I do think it in some ways it legitimized that for me as far as hip hop goes. I yeah, Yeah, I don't know where else to go with that. I kind of feel like it did, but it also wasn't like part of my identity. Like I wasn't a battle rapper. I wasn't a guy trying to go after people and diss and sneak diss people in tracks. Like it wasn't really my MO or what I was trying to do. But I did think it kind of further identified like or I solidified that this is what I was doing, that I was going to be authentic one way or the other. If you were going to diss me, I was going to come back at you. If I was talking about, if I was writing a song about my girlfriend at the time and how sad I was about our relationship, like I was going to
Sad
do
boy
that
raps.
too. It was like, yeah, it was just whatever came from me. That's what was going to come out, I guess. So
I love that. I love that answer. And I'm gonna create my answer that I was looking for out of your response. I don't think that adversity to your brand is necessary. I think that it can help legitimize and solidify it, but I don't think it's necessary, right? Like, you're right, man. At some point, you got to be able to say, hey, this is who I am, like it, love it, hate it, despise it, whatever you want to do. Like, I'm not changing what I am. And you shouldn't change what you are based off of everybody's opinion.
yeah,
Like, take some time to evaluate it, because like you don't want to completely get rid of people's opinions, but you don't want to base your whole entire life and your whole entire existence and your whole entire company on that. Like, I think if any stories can be taken from this and any lessons, it's that yeah, you want to be passionate about what you're doing. You want to understand who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and then be comfortable in your own skin, right?
yeah,
To the point where you don't have to tell everybody this is me, but they can look at you and see, yes, I know Dallen at the time to be a rapper. How
hmm
do I know? Because he's shown me. He's done this. I've seen it with my own two eyes. If anybody asks me, I can give them countless examples of it. Um, I think that's super super important for most people to know. My dog is trying to say hi. Her name is Aspen. Say hi, Aspen. Okay. We don't like we don't we don't do that. We're black.
that's a white people thing.
Yeah, you act right. You act right. But yeah, no, I love this episode. I love this episode. I think there's going to be so much value that people can take from it, that they can see. Hey, it doesn't take much, right? It just takes authenticity. It doesn't require a whole lot of backing, right? Because I mean, when we were doing music, honestly, it felt like me and you against the world a lot of the times,
Yeah.
and you have to get to that mentality with your branding. It's you and whoever's really riding with you against the world, and then that's going to definitely make everything better for you.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I think you said it well, just being comfortable with yourself and confident in yourself and like who you are, what, if it's a brand for a personal brand or a company or an organization, whatever it is, like getting to the root core of who you are, what your purpose is, what you're trying to accomplish, and then not being afraid to go and do that, right? Even if it means you fail, even if it is a long and arduous process to get there, like just not being afraid to fail in that sense. Because that confidence and that drive to pursue your goals and your purpose at the end of the day is like all that matters. And if you don't have that, like you can't have success, right? I mean, that is like relentless people find success, right? Relentless in their
Ooh,
purpose, relentless in like striving to reach their goals. Like that's what brings success. So in whatever, facet of life you're looking for or you're in, like that's I think what it really comes down to for me.
yeah. So that's going to be my first short for this. Is relentless people find success. I absolutely love that. That was
Bars.
fire content, right? Yeah, bars, bars, bars. Um, So thank you again, Don, for coming on the show. Happy New Year! At the time of recording, it is January 1. So what a time for new beginnings, right?
Yeah.
Where can the people find you?
Yeah, I mean, you could follow me on X, formerly Twitter.
Oof,
I got the notification today that I started my Twitter account 12 years ago. You're
oof.
the reason why I started it. You were on Twitter, and I was like, Ryan, Twitter is garbage. Why are you on Twitter? Twitter's overrated. I joined it January 1st, 2012, and I've been addicted ever since. So thank you for that. But yeah,
I love Twitter.
Twitter is the best. Twitter at Dallen Graff. I'm on Instagram at Dallen_Graff. Um, I don't really post much, to be honest. I keep things pretty low key on there, but I am a social media stalker nowadays. I just follow what everybody else does and look at it. But yeah, and I like I'm in promotions and marketing on the sports media side of things now for sports radio station and sports media company in Salt Lake City. And so this like conversation I think is relevant to me today, like as we're talking about my rap career. I'm kind of like putting this in the perspective of my job now and what I'm trying to do, building a brand, reaching people where they are, being authentic to that
Oh yeah,
purpose and that identity. It all fits in and it all resonates really like for me right now. So
yeah.
yeah,
See,
that's where you
we
can
didn't even
find
get
me.
into your branding. I would have.
No,
Oof.
and that's a whole,
That's
that's
a
a
whole
whole
other
other
can of
thing.
worms.
Yeah, yeah.
You need
But
to be posting more. Honestly, I need to be
yeah,
posting more. We
yeah.
can't let Caitlin outdo us.
Yeah, my wife's on the grind. She's
Killing
killing
it.
it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we can get her on the show at
Yeah.
some point. We'll see. She'll blow us both out of the water
Yeah,
with her
she
marketing
absolutely
game.
will. She absolutely will.
But
Yeah.
no,
Caitlin
I
Cherie Wellness on TikTok. Go follow her. I'll give her the plug.
go.
How about that?
We'll put it in the show notes. Maybe we'll get some views, right?
Yeah. Love it.
I appreciate you coming on again. Thank you so much for being my first guest on my personal podcast. We'll see how this goes. I appreciate it wholeheartedly. I'm wishing blessings on you, your family, and you know the new baby on the way. So it's going
Yes.
to be super, super awesome. Bless God for you. Do you have any last words um, that you want to share with the world?
No, just thank you for having me on. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I mean, you mentioned it. We started the Weird Kids podcast in the fall of 2017. Uh, and I mean, 6 years, that's crazy, but you're one of the hardest working people I know. and truly one of the most authentic. Like, what I love about Ryan is, you know how you stand with Ryan. You know how he feels about you. Like, there's no hiding that. I've always appreciated that about you. And I wish you the best in this endeavor. I know, because you're behind it, and if you're driven about it, you will find success with it. That's what I love about you. So thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
You know what? I need you to say that again loud enough so my wife can hear it. No.
Just clip that part and send it to her.
All right, man. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.
Thank you for checking out this episode of the As Told By podcast. If you enjoyed what you've heard and found value in it, share it with 3 people you think could benefit. I also want to invite you to subscribe to the show wherever you consume your podcasts and turn on notifications so you'll never miss a conversation. We look forward to having you with us next time.